Okay, so we're going to get started today. Um, we're here today to talk about achieving a 5-year plan in 3 months with EasySend. My name's Pat Doyle, and good morning to everybody for joining us, or afternoon, depending where you're joining from. I run our sales team, North America, here for EasySend. I'm very excited today to be joined by Scott Hagberg. He's an award-winning application and automation architect at Vgm. Scott's joining us today to talk about how he and VGM were able to complete their entire 5-year digitization plan in only 3 months, utilizing EasySend's platform as one of the driving forces behind that success. Also, we're joined by Mike Pleasant. Mike's a pre-sales engineer here at EasySend. And what Mike is going to do for us today is he's going to show us sort of a before and after scenario, what things look like for VGM and their customers before they work with EasySend, and then what it looked like after those digitization efforts came through. What we're going to talk about here today, one, we're going to start out and give you a little bit of a background about EasySend and VGM, who we are, what it is that we do. The majority of the time, what we're going to do is talk about VGM and how they achieved their 5-year plan in only 3 months. Then Mike's going to give us a demo, as I talked about before, talking about the process and what it looked like before, and then really how we build out and what it looks like for their customers today and the benefits of that. And then lastly, we'll have some Q&A at the end where we'll allow people to ask questions. So for you guys, there is a box on the webcast here where you can click into the Q&A and add your questions. We'll answer as many of them as we can at the end. So first off today, we're going to take a couple minutes and just talk about EasySend and who we are and what we do. So basically, our no-code platform allows our customers to take those painful manual processes and turn them into seamless digital customer journeys. Those journeys then help them where they can cut costs, they can boost revenue, and most importantly, they're going to improve their customer experience. We're going to hear from Scott a little bit later today exactly how we do that, but that's one of the main things that drives what we do. We can transform literally any journey that's out there that's manual or paper-based, but some of the most common ones that our customers have transformed have been new customer onboarding, account opening, insurance claims, and loan applications. You know, in terms of what it is that we deliver, I think everyone has gone to a website for one reason or another and seen some of those clunky PDF forms. They're dotted all over so many companies' websites. You know, the problem with those is you need to be, those forms need to be downloaded, printed, signed, and then either scanned or sent back via snail mail. But none of that's necessary any longer with the digital customer journeys that we're building. You know, with simple and intuitive Webflow, we're going to make that full end-to-end process quick and seamless for your customers. So then the next thing is we get the question, well, how does it work for our customers? What makes it so easy? And what happens is really the process can't be any simpler. Your customer service team is going to send them a link. That link is going to come from any of your internal systems that you're using, such as Salesforce or any of the other systems. The customer is then going to receive a link that they can open on any media, whether it's a laptop, a tablet, a phone. From there, they're simply going to go in and answer the questions that come forward for them. Those questions are going to change depending upon how the customer answers them, and it's going to guide them through all the information that's needed. Once it's filled in, they simply sign it on the platform, and then that form is going to be forwarded on to the appropriate place for processing. The other piece of this that's really important and valuable, which we'll hear again a little bit later from Scott, is on the back end, all the data that gets input into the system from the customer is now being entered automatically into any of the internal core systems that the company or you are utilizing and getting this information from the customer. And then the last thing we want to do today from an EasySend perspective is talk about who we are. We work with some of the largest insurance, banking, and financial services companies in the world. When you look at those industries, we understand the reliance on paper-based and manual processes. What we do is we help them transform how they interact with their customers and how that data then gets brought back and interacts with them and makes them better at the job that they're doing. You know, we build, optimize, and manage digital customer journeys with the no-code platform that I talked about before. We're headquartered in Tel Aviv. We have operations here in the United States, which is growing pretty quickly, with Europe and Asia Pacific. We recently finished our B round of funding, And as I mentioned before, we're rapidly adding customers, not just here in the United States, but across the globe, and have over 60 enterprise customers currently. So that is a background in terms of who EasySend is. What we're going to do next is hear from Scott, who's first off going to start by telling us a little bit more about himself and VGM. So Scott, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Pat. As Pat mentioned, I'm an application automation architect for VGM. I work for their corporate IT, but I've been assigned to VGM Insurance, really brought in to lead the transformation initiative and their digital journey. So a little about VGM Insurance. They provide unrivaled service, industry expertise, and specialty insurance coverage to a variety of niche industries. They've been doing this for 30 years, really focused on post-acute healthcare, as well as golf and hospitality markets. So that's a little bit about them and a little bit about me, Pat.
Okay, well, great. Thank you very much. And so where we started working with you guys is going back a couple of years now. You took a look at what was going on and said, look, we need to make some changes here. And you guys want to set about in building a 5-year plan, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. The plan was really a digital transformation of the customer touch points and then the internal processes. So if you take a look at the diagram, really we're looking at integrating between our front end and back end systems. The middleware, it's really an API integration layer where we partner with our vendors and bring that data via API to our core system. What we really wanted to do was digitize all that incoming information so we could perform analytics and kind of look at business in a different way.
Okay. And so I think what we all learned in the last couple of years, though, is it's great to have a plan and you guys build a plan. But what happened, I think we all know, is COVID came along. So can you discuss what happened, what COVID meant to you guys and what changes that made or forced you to make?
Yeah, COVID had an impact and we were fortunate enough to have a plan, but that plan was accelerated. When people started working from home, one of the key items that was not sent home with them was a printer. With our PDFs, it was required to print it out, fill it out, sign it, and then, of course, scan that back in and submit it. It became an inconvenience, and customers were asking for another option. So we went right away with how do we select a vendor? We went through the selection process, landed with EasySend. But what we were looking for is, how do we get there quickly? Speed to market. And then a cost model that was beneficial for both parties. We didn't want to be held at ransom up front with a promise they'll deliver, but rather a cost model that worked well. We wanted agile. We wanted to be able to get these things out as they were built. We didn't want to try to do a typical waterfall where we waited for 6 to 8 months to deliver everything. And the no code with EasySend was very interesting. We didn't have to have a large learning curve. We didn't have to hire on additional staff. We could, access our system right away. As a matter of fact, we had it up and running in 2 weeks, but be able to interact with it and learn on our own. So all of these things EasySend kind of hit the mark on for us.
Okay, that's great to hear. So, I mean, you talked about speed to market, which is certainly one of the things that we help with our customers a lot. Also, you see that decrease in your operational costs, which is another huge benefit. One of the biggest things that we really feel is important, and I think you've seen, is what that meant to your customer experience. Can you talk about what your customers and the feedback, what they thought of things and the feedback they gave?
Yeah, the feedback was positive right away. So when you speak to the 2,000 plus renewal customers, they've been doing business with us and they knew the old way. So their feedback was, wow, this is quick. This is easy. I can do it from my mobile phone. They can sign the document. Internally, once they hit submit, we had that in our core system. We weren't waiting for it to be scanned in. We weren't waiting for somebody to attach it or detach it from an email. So we started seeing uptick in some of our retention numbers. We started seeing increase in some feedback through our NSP. All of it led to, I guess, an indication that this was a very positive and received well by the customers and internal customers, our own employees.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's really great. And that's, one of the neat things to see is when you talk about customer experience and the improvement of it, seeing those increased retention rates obviously is the effect you want. You want happy customers, and the happier they are, the more they stay with you, which is great. So with that as the backdrop, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to turn it over to Mike, and what he's going to do, he's going to come in and show what the process looked like before and what that meant for your customers. And then more importantly, what it looked like after you started working with EasySend. Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's glad to be with you all today. Before we actually jump into the platform, just wanted to go through a couple of slides just to set the stage as to what you're going to see when we actually get into the platform. Just like most of our customers, VGM began their process with manual forms that were quite clunky, and we were successful in turning them into digital journeys that also included e-signature. Here is an example of one of the processes that we helped VGM with, which started with the agent in the CRM or the source system. Simply, they send a link to the customer. The VGM customer selects, clicks the link, and then the journey begins. As the customer is completing the journey, answering the questions, they're able to upload attachments. And also at the very end of the process, they sign the digital journey. What happens is that the agent gets the data as well as the customer. They receive a emailed form of the PDF, and the customer, being VGM, they also receive all of the data digitally. And throughout this entire journey, as you see, there are automatic email reminders that go to the customer, just reminding them to complete their journey if they have not done so already. One of the final slides just speaks to the importance of security. We hold security very important here within EasySend, and here you see some of the certifications that we have to make sure that your data is sound and secure and protected. So continuing on, this is what the process looked like prior to EasySend, a PDF form that VGM had, and as you see, it's quite clunky. It was mentioned earlier that the VGM customers would need to download this form, complete it manually, and then put it back in the email in order to get it over and back to VGM. So we converted this into a digital process, a digital journey that begins from an email that can be received or a text message that can be received from the CRM, from the source system. So the customers of VGM, all they simply need to do is select this link. Email completely branded to which way that the VGM process wants the email to appear, wants the text to appear. And then once the link is selected, then the digital journey begins. The customer just has a few steps in order to gather and complete the process. And there's also pre-fill. So whatever information that is stored in the CRM that needs to be in the journey will automatically be pre-filled. We also have co-browsing. As you take a look in the upper right, you see the sign for Agent Assist. So as the VGM customer is completing their journey, if they have questions or need a little bit of guidance, they can receive that guidance they need just by selecting this Agent Assist button in the upper right. So as the customer VGM, just a few steps that they need to type to gather the information that is needed. And as we scroll down, we also see that there is the ability to upload all types of attachments as well. Different ways that the information can be captured. As we see, radio buttons, drop-down fields, free-form text, all different ways that the information can be captured. And at the final end of the process, there is the e-signature, which is incorporated into the workflow. And finally, what is presented to the customer is this document, which has all of the information that was captured throughout the journey appended to it, as well as the e-signature. And as mentioned earlier, the customer VGM, they will get this document mailed to them, emailed to them, so that they now have this PDF. And then also what VGM receives is all of the data that was captured. They receive that electronically, including any attachments is sent back to their core system of record. Next, we're going to take a look at the builder because we consider this to be the brains behind EasySend. Right in the middle is the canvas area. And some of this should look familiar to you. And when we talk about no code, low code, it's very easy to build these journeys because in the middle, we have the canvas, but then to the right, we have several different components that you can choose from. And it's just a matter of dragging and dropping the component that you want to place onto the specific canvas and making any changes from there. So with that, I will turn it over to Pat for questions and answers.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. What we're going to do now is we're going to move to the Q&A session. We've gotten a few questions online through the question box. We're going to start. I have one or two for Scott, though, that we would like to start with. So Scott, we've talked a lot about today, the success you've had and how you guys and why you did what you did. Can you, given the success you've had, talk about any advice you would give to enterprises that would be interested in or want to make that move to digitization?
Yeah, definitely. I learned right away we weren't digital application experts. We had assumptions going in. I think we've all completed digital applications. My best advice would be to partner with EasySend, the vendor. So they're not only going to help you come up with a digital process, but they're going to advise you on best practices, email communications, what is the right way to approach the journey, how to be agile with it. So the partner vendor that you choose, in this case, EasySend, will help you when it comes to testing, for example. Never tested a digital application before. So their expertise really paid dividends for us. So we just learned to trust what they advised us on and utilize that in our implementation.
Okay, and I guess the next step or an offshoot of that question as well is oftentimes companies are facing that question of do they build versus they buy. Can you talk a little bit about your thought process for VGM around that and how you ended up doing what you did?
Yeah, certainly. When we go consider building, you typically have to get some resources lined up for that, and there's a cost. There's a learning curve then, of course. As I mentioned, we're not digital application experts. So either you have to hire them in or you have to take that long learning curve to get to market, trying to, I guess, learn as you go what it is to create a digital journey, all the communication, the API integrations, all of that. With EasySend, it was out of the box, right? Everything was built. The no-code platform allowed us to start developing. As I previously mentioned, we were up in our environment 2 weeks after signing our contract with EasySend. So that speed to market really is where buying is a much better option than trying to build it yourself.
Oh, that's fantastic. We appreciate that. And so we talked a lot about today, the advantages, what you saw, what worked, and I think many of those you sort of anticipated or expected to happen. Can you talk, two questions here? One, what was the biggest advantage you saw? And then, maybe something for everybody is what was an unanticipated advantage or benefit that you guys weren't expecting that came about through this process?
Yeah, so with biggest advantage, obviously the customer experience. So let's talk a little bit more internally. We were able to digitize our data, removing the need to manually enter data. When you get a PDF application, there could be sections or questions missing. You could even be missing a signature. So the biggest advantage internally was that we were able to process these applications 100% complete with signature into our core system, which decreased the time it took to get to underwriting and to go ahead and buy the policy. Again, customer experience is always the biggest, but internally this one mattered. A side effect of this, we knew we wanted to do analytics, but one thing we didn't realize was how we ask questions and how customers answer questions and how we can change the way we utilize our questions to get better answers, which then of course helps us understand the analytics, which then of course helps us understand our business better, in which case we can then make adjustments, serve the customer better, and obviously do business in a more productive manner.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. That's a great answer. So now we're going to start to move to some of the questions that we've been receiving online. So a couple for you here. Oftentimes, when you think about making a move like this, there's the no code piece of it. So you have a situation where there's the talk of the business working with that, but then there's the IT side of it. And obviously there's IT interaction. Can you talk a little bit about how you and your business side of things interacted with IT and sort of what that collaboration look like?
Certainly. And as I mentioned, I am from corporate IT, so I was partnered with a business owner, and we built a pretty strong relationship. One of the hard parts of working in IT, you don't understand why they're asking the questions and what the objective is of a lot of it. So partnering with the business to understand their needs, understanding what's required. Think of the original applications as a set of requirements. Here's the questions we have. Here's the answers we want. How do we take that? So we obviously no code platform. We can set up that digital process to match what the original questions were, and then we can leverage some IT skills that we already bring. How do we store the data? Where do we move the data? How do we integrate it with the core system? So it was actually a really well-formed relationship because we put people from both teams on the project team and kind of overcome any obstacles we'd face.
Okay, wow, that's great to hear that kind of collaboration, because we know sometimes that can be a challenge for folks. Another question that just came across. So earlier in your presentation, you referenced the decrease of 30 to 50% in operational costs. Can you talk specifically about areas where you saw the decrease?
Yeah, so when we're talking these, we're not talking the overall operations. We're talking what it costs us to receive applications and bind the insured. So first of all, we take all the digital data, and we no longer have employees manually entering into the system. So that's just labor cost right off the top. We had systems in place that has to generate all of these renewals. So we were able to retire some things, which saved us licensing, maintenance on these systems, other things. And again, these things would just send a PDF, right? They weren't doing anything for us, but rather just making sure we were getting those out the door. The decrease in time to underwrite, again, with a paper PDF, you don't always get the questions. So an underwriting event could take up to a week or two simply because they're going back and forth trying to get additional information. So we were able to narrow all of that down. And then I guess the reporting and analytics after the fact, we're getting better data. We're not having to move it around. We don't need a data analyst to build Tableau reports and then try to understand the manual information, but rather, again, think of bleeding all the questions off of a PDF. You don't have the ability to do that. Now we have it with digital, so we're able to build out these robust reports straight off the applications.
Okay, great. So we're getting questions flying left and right coming in here. So next question is, we get people coming to us sort of two different ways, right? One is they've got a very specific use case that they need to get done. The other is more of a larger scale enterprise type process building. And you talk about you guys building out a number of different ones. When you're looking at the bigger picture, how did you guys decide where to start and how to start with that? And then talk about the process of moving from one to the next, and then maybe the integration of that as well.
Yeah, so obviously we have a bunch of lines that we have applications for. So we obviously took a look at which one do we do the most business in. That's where we should start. What we found was EasySend came back and said, listen, you're not digital app experts. Let's start with something simple. Let's do your orthotic and prosthetic. Let's get that up and running. Let's get it out to your customers. And through that integration, that first contact with development and getting it live, we learned a lot about what we need to do for these next lines. And so then we started moving into the more difficult applications. So we added value right away. Again, the agile approach EasySend takes. We added value to our customers. We were able to become better at what we're doing. We got those first 8 processes up. I think we delivered them 5 days before the actual due dates. We went in early. We went in on budget. And then looking at then the existing customers, we were now pretty confident what we were going to do with our renewals. And we utilized all the tools like the reminders and the generation of an EasySend link. We connected our APIs to EasySend, so everything is automated. Every day it runs, it generates all of the links to the renewals, sends it to the customer. When the customer submits, it comes directly through our APIs into our core system, and it actually just shows up on the activity center for the individual to underwrite. No contact during renewals with any human. It simply just arrives one day with a filled application. So we started the journey with new, learned a lot about what digital applications like and what it is like to own them. We moved into our existing customers and we built out that system through integration that really met the needs of kind of all of our customers, both new and existing.
Okay, great. I think we have time for one or two more questions here before we're up against the time limit. So can you talk about the out of the box integrations that were available to you, how easy they were to set up versus how much, if any, you did of ones that were maybe a little more complex, and talk about that.
Yeah. EasySend it's quite easy to integrate with EasySend. You have a digital process, and then there you have what are called model items or objects. And so you just populate those with a JSON. You call the URL and you send your JSON file. So that integration is straight out of the box and takes really no effort to put in place. Our core system is where we had to do some looking, and we had in that diagram we showed a middleware. We built some Azure functions, and we built a stored procedure, and we just simply said, give us the data out of our core system. We structured in JSON. We hit that EasySend API, and the process is underway. Pretty smooth there. Coming back in the system, again, our core system, we had to learn a little more about that. Again, stood up a little bit of middleware to accomplish it. EasySend hits our API gateway and drops a JSON in, and it just is consumed by our core system. So the integrations, again, were truly out of the box. We just had to get a little bit of training on how to build that JSON file or how to structure it, and we were able to call their URLs and make connections right away.
Wow, it makes it sound really easy. Thank you. Last question, and I think this is a great one for us to finish up with. You guys, you talked about when you built that 5-year plan, you went out, you looked at different providers, and then you looked at EasySend. What makes EasySend different from the other companies that are offering similar services?
There's a partnership. It seemed to form right away when we were talking with EasySend. They understood what we were looking for. It was very collaborative. The speed that they spoke about, there wasn't this conversation of a long drawn out waterfall, but rather let's be agile. They wanted to break it down quickly into small digestible pieces. And then again, the cost model, they didn't hold us at ransom. Here, pay us a bunch of money. We promise we'll get there someday. Rather, they said, here's how to get the platform up. And then every time you stand a process up, the cost goes up, which is mutually beneficial for both of us, right? Once it's live, once it's there, once EasySend's completed their work, then the price goes up. We didn't want to drop $500,000 on somebody promising us they'll have something to us in 3 months, but rather build it and then pay for it. And it just worked perfectly for us.
That's fantastic. We can't ask for a better testimonial than that. So we're up against our time limit today. First off, thank you everybody for joining. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to come listen to us. Mike, thank you for the demo you gave. And Scott, most importantly, beyond just being a great customer, thank you for taking the time today to come on, talk to everybody who joined us about how you've worked with EasySend and some of those benefits. So if we didn't get to your questions today, and I know there were a few more, we will try to get to them, or feel free to reach out to your representative here at EasySend. Thank you all very much and have a great day.